The kettlebell has a unique advantage. Because it isn't fixed in space, it naturally adapts to your individual structure and body mechanics. This flexibility works exceptionally well. The reality for most aging men is they're unknowingly exercising themselves toward orthopedic surgery. But there exist four kettlebell movements refined through decades of Russian athletic science that develop genuine strength without leaving you sore and broken. What appears straightforward on the surface is actually the reason it's so effective for the aging body. And the third movement, that's the breakthrough most aging athletes never uncover, the one that shields your upper body and develops overhead pressing power in ways nothing else achieves. These are the core four kettlebell movements for building real strength. Movement one is the kettlebell swing. The legendary strength coach Pavel Tsatsouline stated, "I'd say that the swing represents the most valuable exercise available to anyone. Not the squat, not the deadlift, not any piece of gym equipment gathering cobwebs in the corner. The kettlebell swing." But what's behind Pavel's devotion to this single movement? After 50, your physiology is experiencing a transformation that gradually weakens you with each passing year. You're watching your explosive power muscles fade, the ones keeping you from moving slowly and deliberately. Each year, you neglect these muscles. They shrink incrementally. The kettlebell swing reawakens these dormant muscles. Protecting these muscles requires a different training philosophy than what works for younger lifters chasing muscle pump. You need training that stays metabolically clean. The system is clean energy training. Imagine your muscles functioning as a precision engine. Most athletes train until maximum intensity, producing lactate buildup that functions like harmful emissions. Excessive accumulation damages the engine, creates joint discomfort, and requires extended recovery periods. Pavel's approach maintains clean engine operation. The focus is generating power without toxic physiological stress. He shared his exact process with Joe Rogan. Execute a set of 10 powerful kettlebell swings, then walk around briefly. Once your breathing normalizes and you can hold a conversation, perform another set. Repeat this sequence. That's Pavel's entire methodology. Forceful sets combined with genuine recovery time without pursuing metabolic burn. Pavel's essential principles for the swing movement. Position yourself with feet at shoulder distance. Perform a hip hinge rather than a squat movement. On each repetition, explosively extend your hips. Allow the kettlebell to rise to shoulder level through momentum. Manage the descent and prepare for the next rep. Finish your set before experiencing burning sensations. Take time to recover until casual conversation is possible, then continue. Movement 1 conditions the body's engine, but Movement 2 provides the protective framework for your shoulders and spinal column. Movement 2 is the kettlebell military press. Conventional thinking assumes shoulder development requires machines, cables, and targeted isolation work. Pavel approaches this differently. He made a statement every serious lifter should consider carefully. "I would challenge anyone to discover a pressing motion that's mechanically superior for shoulder health compared to the kettlebell military press. The mechanics are exceptional. The movement range is ideal. The lower position provides excellent stretch. The upper position creates complete contraction, and everything in between is flawless." That statement carries serious weight. This is a legendary Russian strength expert declaring that the kettlebell press is the safest pressing movement for shoulder joints. A barbell restricts your shoulder into a predetermined pattern. It doesn't accommodate your unique anatomy. Your body must conform to the equipment. The kettlebell functions in the opposite manner. Since the kettlebell isn't fixed, it conforms to your shoulder structure. Your individual range of motion determines the movement path, not predetermined constraints. This explains why you build genuine shoulder strength while preserving joint integrity over decades. However, strength without stability provides limited benefit. This is where methodology becomes essential. The approach centers on proper repetition ranges. Pavel is emphatic about this principle. Never push toward muscular failure under any circumstances. Here's his scientific reasoning. While you could execute 10 repetitions maximum, your training should stay within 3 to 6 repetitions. That's the optimal bandwidth. This preserves nervous system recovery, maintains joint health, and allows continuous strength progress. Pavel's fundamental guidelines for pressing. Position the kettlebell at shoulder level in the rack position. Maintain neutral wrist positioning with your elbow position near your torso. Execute the press through a natural curved trajectory rather than vertically. Achieve complete lockout at the pinnacle. Lower gradually with full control back to starting position. Never force through difficult reps. Maintain significant distance from failure. Alternate between each arm. Movement 2 supplies the protection your shoulders require. Yet movement 3 is the exercise most athletes abandon after midlife, the one that establishes foundational stability, safeguards your joints, and ensures your body functions naturally across your remaining years. Movement 3 involves the Turkish get-up. During a conversation with Pavel, Joe Rogan highlighted something crucial about the Turkish get-up that most people overlook. Simple, unspectacular movements like the Turkish get-up represent genuine, functional excellence. Absolutely outstanding for martial arts preparation. It delivers remarkable benefits for spinal stability, abdominal strength, and capability to recover from disadvantageous positions. It lacks visual appeal. It doesn't feel impressive during initial attempts. However, this movement determines whether you're moving with capability at 80. This represents biological rejuvenation for your joints, establishing resilient foundational strength that preserves your body's intended function indefinitely. The methodology involves incremental weight progression. This is where many practitioners make crucial errors. They introduce heavier weights prematurely. Pavel recommends incremental stepping. For the Turkish get-up particularly, it transcends basic training philosophy and functions as accident prevention. His explanation emphasizes maintaining consistent weight over multiple weeks before executing substantial progressions. Pavel's core guidelines for the Turkish get-up. Begin in a supine position. Grasp the kettlebell in one hand with your arm fully extended vertically. Maintain visual focus on the kettlebell during the complete sequence. Roll progressively to your elbow, then your palm. Drive your pelvis skyward into a bridge formation. Move your lower body behind you into a half-kneeling posture. Push upward to standing. Methodically reverse each phase back to your starting position with complete muscular control. Avoid rushing between positions. One repetition per side demonstrates complete system engagement. The Turkish get-up creates a resilient, unified physiology. Stability alone tells only part of the narrative. You also require the capability to transform that stability into powerful, impact-resistant capability. This brings us to the concluding element of the Russian system. Movement 4 represents the single-arm kettlebell swing. You've developed engine strength via the bilateral swing, constructed shoulder armor using the press, and established structural integrity through the get-up. This movement tests your foundation by introducing reactive instability. Most practitioners believe the single-arm variation is merely a simplified version of the standard swing, an alternative when bilateral work seems unmanageable. Pavel conceptualizes it entirely differently. During his discussion with Joe Rogan, he described Mark Rifkin among his most accomplished instructors. Past sports injuries, particularly from an early gymnastics accident, compromised his capacity for symmetrical loading. His lower body and posterior chains sustained severe damage. Yet single-arm variations work exceptionally well for him. Bilateral movements create problems. However, asymmetrical training proves manageable. This isn't merely an accommodation for injured athletes. Pavel demonstrates that single-arm variations create distinct physiological demands that bilateral movements cannot replicate. It forces compensation patterns, requires stabilization capacity, and compels your system to address inherent weaknesses and asymmetries. Precisely these requirements produce exceptional results. The methodology incorporates what Pavel calls unpredictable loading. The single-arm swing utilizes this advanced principle in remarkable ways. He clarified this concept during his Joe Rogan appearance. With unpredictable loading, you maintain controlled chaos. You constantly shift what you're demanding from your body, but within specific boundaries. Here's how this translates into practice. One session features 5 explosive reps using your heavier kettlebell. Your next session involves 10 repetitions with a lighter bell. Then you return to heavy, followed by light. It's not arbitrary. It's strategically controlled variation. Your physiology resists complete accommodation. Pavel's primary guidelines for the single-arm swing: mirror the basic swing setup. Position feet at shoulder width. Hinge forward at your hips. Grasp the kettlebell unilaterally while your opposite arm hangs naturally. Drive your hips forward with maximum force. Let the kettlebell ascend to shoulder height naturally. Return it downward with control and reset. Maintain a braced abdominal region during the entire movement. Alternate the working arm between sessions. Cease before sensation of burn emerges. Rest until comfortable verbal communication returns. Then proceed. Initiate with lighter loading than feels necessary. These 4 movements comprise far more than a simple exercise selection. They constitute an integrated methodology developed through multiple decades of Russian athletic research, optimized for maximum strength with minimal physiological wear. The bilateral swing reactivates your power generation systems. The press fortifies your shoulder structure. The get-up strengthens your foundational stability. The single-arm variation resolves and bulletproofs every weakness. That's Pavel's comprehensive system. Conventional programs typically offer abundance. Abundant exercises, abundant volume, abundant complexity, abundant reasons to feel exhausted and damaged. Pavel offers restraint, and that's precisely the advantage. Just 4 movements, one integrated approach, decades of Russian science compressed into perhaps the most effective strength methodology available. This isn't a 30-day experiment you complete and discard. It's a foundational framework that becomes your long-term training center for many years. Pavel himself maintains nearly daily kettlebell practice at 56 and beyond. Not out of necessity, because the system functions. It has always functioned. It will continue functioning indefinitely after every temporary fitness craze has faded away. Begin with the swing. Perfect this movement before progressing. Allow this methodology to accomplish its intended purpose: